about anything that have come up? Any just questions about anything at all? Like before we just start going through the game.
I don't I don't think so. I mean, do you guys? I personally don't.
I needed to
No,
know
I
how to
think maybe
take down
questions will
Zarya.
pop up. Oh, yeah, I guess. Sorry.
Oh my god.
Zarya
Zarya
is
need to
our group
destroy
in
us on this
trouble.
one.
Yeah, we just cannot defeat Zarya in any game ever.
All right. Yeah, I mean, Zarya's hopefully simple in that you're gonna do pretty good against her if you don't feed her. So,
Right.
So
like
tough.
that's one of the simplest things to do is just don't shoot her. Especially when she's bubbling. So you got to be everyone's got to pay attention to her bubbles. Everyone's got to make sure that they're not shooting at her. And then she gets significantly less value if you're all on the same board with that. And then
Mm,
beyond that, I mean, you can play out of range from her. You can play compositions that just work well into her. So I mean, you could play. I mean, depending on the map, you can play things that just outrange her and just stay far away. You could play things that don't really feed her very much energy. Usually like hit scan characters, or things that can easily stop shooting at her are good to not feed her energy. If you're playing things like Junkrat, Pharah, slow projectiles, those are very easy for her to just farm up energy with.
mm.
So all different ideas that you can go through, but we'll take a look as we're going through this game. All right, so it's been a couple weeks. Wasn't necessarily expecting it to be this long, so hopefully I can remember some of the things we talked about. So last time I think we talked about all things communications, right? We talked about I think we touched base on all of the comm roles. I don't think I skipped anything.
Right.
So that will be like we're done with the talking about that. If you have any questions, let me know. But now we'll just be focused on the as we go. Maybe I'll point out examples where you could be doing the like maybe if you guys didn't combo ults or you didn't you all over ulted or you didn't pay attention to an ult that they had, things like that. I'll probably point them out in your game. And I'm trying to remember what other things did we go over during that first session. Let me see if I can
So
find the chart.
I from my notes, I we talked about what to do in between fights. So
Yep.
like all the communication, all tracking stuff. Um we talked about winning a fight. So like the
Yep.
determinations, like if it's up one, down one, up two,
Yep.
down two. We talked about targeting. So like how we were all looking at different things, and then
Mm-hmm.
we should try and do a better job of focusing on the same thing. And
Yep.
then we talked about positioning. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Good positioning is being able to utilize cover. The time it takes to correct bad positioning will
Awesome.
get you killed. High ground is great for positioning. So
All
we
right.
covered those four
Awesome.
things.
All right. Awesome. Yep. That's really solid base line of things. Do you guys want to talk about team compositions? Because that's something we didn't talk about last time, and that's a good
Yeah.
like starter thing to go over of what are the different team comps in the game?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know what team comps you're running? How do you formulate a team comp? And how do team comps play into each other?
Yeah, I think that'd be super helpful because I don't have good game knowledge. I just
Okay.
like I just played shooters, but like
Awesome.
understanding that would be better.
Okay, cool. I'm sending you guys a little picture right now that you guys could take a look at over on Discord. This is a rough game chart, and it just shows the different team compositions that exist within Overwatch. Um, and these have pretty much always existed, and they still currently exist. And that is dive, brawl, and spam as the main team compositions. Have you guys heard of all of these compositions before?
Uh,
I've heard of them. I haven't
I
heard
haven't heard
spam. I've
spam.
heard poke for that one. I don't know if.
Spam is an alternate terminology for poke. I think it was
Okay.
the older term for it, and then I think that poke ended up turning into the newer term for it.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess I'm old school with the term.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
But brawl and other terms for it are death ball or rush. Are other ones
Okay,
that can go work for that as well.
I see.
But all the core concepts remain the same. Um, So
Dive, brawl, and is hybrid spam the same thing?
no, hybrid is when you're not really running any of the three compositions. Maybe you're running a hybrid of two of them or so. In a like a if you're playing just like quick play or ranked by yourself, like solo queuing, hybrid usually has a negative connotation because you're not really running anything. It theoretically can, if you're depending on what composition you're working with, it could work out, but I wouldn't always recommend it. It does have like some disadvantages if you're running just kind of hybrid where you're just playing anything you want to play, and which we'll talk about in a minute. So hybrid's just kind of when you're not really playing any of these three compositions. You're just kind of
Okay, I
playing a
see.
hybrid. Um, so dive compositions are made up of fast-moving characters. This is probably the one you're probably most familiar with. That's going to be like Monkey, Diva, Wrecking Ball with Genji, Pharah, Tracer, etc. And then supports would be anything that can keep up with it. So like Ana for sniping, or maybe Mercy, or um, what else? Like Zen can throw orbs on them. Uh,
Moira
Probably
count is
Juno.
that?
Moira probably can struggle with dive because she has limited range and they can dive out of her range, and if she goes in she has a hard time getting back out. So she can
Okay.
work, but also it's hard to play her in that environment, but she can work in it. Um, so yeah, things like that. So fast, high mobility, fast moving characters that can go in really quickly, and their play style is that they start off far away and they close the distance really quickly and jump in and get on top of you. And usually they can play pretty fast, or they can kind of ramp up. They can start slow and just try to build kills on ultimates and then get faster and faster, or they can just hard dive from the get go and just go into your back line. Kind of depends on how they want to play. Brawl, they and spam are complete opposites, so this is where it kind of gets important to know the difference, but all of them are pretty important. Um, Brawl compositions are close ranged characters, so think Reinhardt, Junker Queen, Mei, Reaper, Lucio, who can speed them around, Moira, Baptiste, Ana, who have lots of AoE healing. They're pretty tanky. They're usually pretty slow, and they're pretty brawly. They do lots of damage up close, and therefore they want to play as fast as possible and get in on top of you. Because if they kind of slowly just wander around the map, then they're not gonna get value because the other teams can just kind of shoot them at ranges that they can't shoot back from. So you need to go in quick and get value quick, otherwise you're just gonna get spammed out, which is where spam comes into play. Spam is the exact opposite. Spam is far-ranged characters such as Sigma, Roadhog, to a degree, Orisa and Ramatra. And then you have pretty much any sniper hit scan character, uh, as well as like Pharah, or Echo, spam, and then long range supports like Zenyatta, Baptiste, Mercy, who can damage boost, things like that. Alari also goes in there. All these spam characters, are far ranged, and therefore they want to play slowly. The slower the fight drags out, the more value they get because they can just shoot you from a distance that you can't hit them at. Within these three compositions, there's a rough rock paper scissors that's formed.
Okay.
There is not This is not a hard end all be all where if you are on this composition you automatically win against them, but it isn't. Think of it as just you have an advantage if you're on the rock paper scissors comp. Um, not in Once again, not a guaranteed win, but an advantage. So dive, it has an advantage against spam because they can't, if you can get on top of them instantly, they can't play slow and they can't play far because you can just close the distance very quickly. So dive can very easily jump up to high grounds. If they're up on high grounds, they can just close the gap very easily, which just means that spam loses its advantage of playing far and slow. Same thing, has an advantage against Brawl because Brawl needs to get close and play fast, but naturally during a fight you automatically start separated, which puts the win condition in Spam's hands from the get-go. Brawl kind of has to fight uphill to get close, to play fast, and if Spam just kind of dances away from them and plays slow and plays far, then they just have the natural advantage against Brawl. Plus, there's also more Spam maps in the game than there are Brawl maps. Spam kind of has that advantage as well. Brawl has the advantage against Dive, has the rough advantage against Dive because Brawl kind of likes you to get close to them anyways. So it's not, and they want to play fast, so it's not really an advantage for Dive to jump on them, because then they're just getting close range into shotguns. Like imagine like a monkey jumping into a Reaper. And then also on top of that, they're also brawlier and harder to dive and blow up anyways. All right, so that's your rock paper scissors. So you can look to play within those. You want to be so. How do you tell what comp you're on? Um, your tank will have the most impact on this because they usually initiate aggression and when you're initiating and the pace of the fight and the flow of the fight. So they will have the most but not the exclusive impact on this. Maybe you can think of your tank almost as if they are worth two characters in this and when you're deciding what composition you're on. So tank will have the most, DPS will have the second most, and the supports are the most flexible, so they'll have the least, but they still have impact on it. So if you really need to, maybe you could think that they're worth half a person. So if combined, they're worth one whole, right? If that makes this simpler to think about, I'm not sure if that does, but
Yeah, it does.
So if you are coming into a game and you have um, one brawl tank and one brawl support and two spam DPS and one spam support, you are essentially running a brawl spam hybrid because you are not running anything in particular. Those numbers all even out. You're not running anything in particular. You're just kind of in the middle, and you kind of start to run into problems with a specifically a brawl spam hybrid, because you end up pulling yourself in two separate directions because they have completely opposite play styles. So you half your team wants to run in and sprint at them, and then the other half wants to sit back and snipe at them, which just usually doesn't end up working well for your team because you end up pulling yourself apart. Um, so you want to be very careful, and that's why my recommendation would be to pay attention to what comp you're running, and maybe try to be cohesive. And be centered around the comp rather than just running like a random hybrid and whatever you want to play. Um, so alternatively, if you have one dive tank and one dive DPS and one dive support, and then you have a brawl DPS and a brawl support, you're mostly dive, so you just be a dive composition, right? You lean towards dive, so dive is what you'd consider yourself, and brawl and dive aren't always uh, against each other in terms of a composition, so it works out, right? So your dive comp, it
Right.
works, right? Um, Also remember within all this that sometimes different characters can work well in multiple compositions or work poorly in multiple compositions. So uh, each character is gonna kind of work like that. So for example, you might have heard that I mentioned some characters in multiple of these, like Baptiste works well. It works pretty great in a brawl, and he works pretty great in a spam, but he works not so great in a dive comp because his projectiles are hard. All of his projectiles and his lamp are hard to keep up with a dive, and no one really gets value out of his window. So he works well in two, not in the other. Some characters work well in one comp, some characters work well in two, some characters are flexible and work in all three. But it kind of depends. Like Mercy also works great in a spam, works pretty decent with a dive, and yet works not so great with a brawl. She doesn't have enough healing for it. Um, so they're just some examples of how those work. All right, let's wrap this up. I think we're coming to the end of this. I'm trying to remember. There's like one more thing to talk about. Maps. So how do you know which composition you want to be on?
Right.
This will primarily depend upon what map are you on, what team comp are they running, and then also what fits best for your play style. Because if you guys are pretty like if you have people on your team who are inflexible and kind of only play certain characters, that might dictate this. Like if all of you guys just happen to just be a hard brawl team where like all of the characters you all play are brawl and you're not really flexible to play anything else, then just commit and play brawl. Like just do it. Like just learn how to be good at it. Unless you want to be flexible. If you want to be flexible, then learn to be flexible. Right? It kind of depends on what play style you guys want to go with. Either learn to overcome the handicap by just playing your team comp, or learn to be flexible and work with the flexibility. But that'll also be more work because you're learning more characters and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So maps, dive maps typically are maps with a lot of very vertical high grounds. So think of Watchpoint Gibraltar, which has very up and down high grounds. They can just jump up and get on top of very, very easily. Therefore, they kind of control all of the positioning. If Brawl is bad on those maps because they take a really long time to run up on the stairs, which gives Spam a big advantage. So Spam's decent on those maps, but Dive can just get on top of them, making them very dominant. Spam is going to be good on very long, open, sight-lined maps. Also, especially if they have horizontal high grounds, so not very, very tall high grounds, but very spread out, wide, open areas with just little high grounds. That's where spam will be really great. So think like Junkertown, um, or Havana are examples. Rialto, except for Last Point. So sometimes on these maps, it's important to note that not every single point of an entire map is the same. That's why
Right.
sometimes team comps might swap up. Like for example, um, on Rialto, first 2 points are decently spammy, but last point is pretty brawly because it's much closer quarters. Brawl is probably has Brawl spam kind of has the best because they most maps kind of fit into their category. Dive
Mm-hmm.
and Brawl kind of get the shorter end of the stick where there's not as many maps that come into play. Um, Brawl though has a lot of control points. A lot of control points work well for them. At least one or two of every control point they work well on. And then Kings Row is another good example of a brawl map. Very close quarters. Yeah. All right. That's it. Any final questions? It all make sense? Anything confusing?
Not that all made sense to me.
Um, if we want to be flexible in terms of like understanding when to switch up like team comps and like having that ability to do so, I guess 2 questions. First question is how many heroes like would you recommend learning like 2 heroes per comp or
that might be a bit too much for you guys. So typically when I recommend people like on an individual solo level, when I do one-on-one coaching, depending unless they're playing like all the time every day, or they just, and this is also just kind of up to you guys on like on what play styles you want to go with. Do you like being really, really flexible, or do you not, or do you like playing the specific characters that you play? Because that kind of is an individual thing and kind of gets the fun of the game. So I don't want to take the fun away from you guys.
right.
And it's just a handicap if you try. It is a handicap that's overcomable, but it's a handicap if you spread yourself way too thin and you are on like 8 different characters, or in your case, you just recommended 6 different characters. Or if you're playing one character, that can also be a handicap. So usually I recommend like 2 to 3. Maybe if you
Okay.
guys want to be flexible and be able to play all 3 comps, you could learn one character from each comp, and then
One for each. Okay.
that's flexible to where you could swap to each of them. I'd say that that's a pretty well-rounded hero pool if you have 3 different characters that you can play really well and be flexible on. And then of course, like you could always pick up other characters as well, situationally based, or if you ever want to swap out one of those characters, like, oh, I picked Reaper, but I don't actually like Reaper, let me play Junkrat instead. I don't know, something like that.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And then the second question was like how how do you know I know you mentioned that it like depends on the map and then also what the enemy team is running. But does it just come down to game knowledge? Like when you see what they're running, like, okay, I know Reinhardt is Brawl. I know, I don't know, like Sigma is Poke or something.
Yeah,
And then,
you'll
right,
get exactly, it's a game knowledging, and you'll get quicker with it the more you practice it of identifying. This right here. Not only is this important to know for swapping sake, but it's also important to know for playstyle sake, right?
right,
Because if you aren't paying attention to this at all, then it kind of messes with your pacing, right? And when you're running in and when you're backing up, like you might accidentally just be in an example where let's say it's spam and brawl, and they're spam and your brawl, and you see that they're on Sigma. And if you're not paying attention to the team comps at all and even thinking about this, you might just like kind of be sitting around and not doing anything, and not running in as much. But when you know this, now you know, okay, my win condition is they have a spam comp, we're on a brawl comp. We need to run in and get on top of them or else we lose.
right.
Um,
So you kind of it guides you into understanding how
yeah,
you guys should be playing.
exactly. And
Gotcha.
that will
Okay.
come more naturally the more you practice it, where you at a certain point, once you get used to it, you'll just be able to like within 5 seconds of them walking out of spawn, you can look at their characters and just go, okay, they're on this comp.
Okay.
And that's something you'll work on if you to practice it. An easy thing to start with could be to just when they're coming out of spawn and you see them, maybe just start by calling out what characters they're on. Right, they're on Roadhog, they're on Soldier, they're on Moira, they're on Mercy, they're on Kree. This is helpful information for everybody just to not get caught off guard by any of them, like so no one's accidentally getting hooked. And this also helps be able to identify team composition as well if you're mentally and verbally acknowledging what characters they're running.
Makes sense.
Cool. All right. That is. Oh, what did I click? All right. Why don't we hop into the game? I mean, or we can just keep going over other things. I mean, we can keep going here.
Whatever. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any like other theory questions, or should we just watch the film?
Just watch the film. I think I'm good.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, first fight. You guys. So just let's look at. Let's see. Can you guys now? Let's practice this. Are you guys able to identify what team composition you're running right now?
Let me ready. Let me try. Let me try. So I would say, oh shit. I would say Orisa is a brawl. Mercy's a spam. Iliari's a spam. Junkrat's a brawl or dive, and Soldier's a spam.
Yep. So what composition would you guys be on?
We're hybrid.
Hybrid. Um, so I think that 2 of them. So you were right on all of them except for 2,
Okay.
where Orisa is a brawly spam because she does have some range in her as well.
Hmm.
Like her javelin and her gun do some pretty decent ranged damage. So, but then her javelin spin and fortify allow her to brawl. So she's kind of in that weird spot where where I say that Brawl and Spam are opposites of each other, but both Orisa and Ramatra are kind of the exceptions to this in that they kind of play both, which is really funny. um,
Right.
where things like with Ramatra, where he both has his punchy mode, which is Brawl, while he also has his Spam mode, which is sit back and shoot and shoot damage in with a shield, right?
So this would be kind of like a poke composition then, right?
Yeah, this would be more poke. Same thing with Junkrat. Junkrat is, I would say, less divey. I'd say he's more spam and brawly. He could work okay with a dive, but he doesn't have that high of mobility that he'd be able to like keep up with like dive characters. I'd say he'd be more like okay with a dive than in comparison to other, like sometimes you have to compare them to the other options, right? Like if you're in a dive composition, Junkrat would be okay, but would he be as mobile and flexible as a Tracer or a Genji or an Echo or a Pharah? Probably not. All of them have more mobility than he does. So those are just ideas. So here you guys, I'd say, are primarily on a spam or poke, right? Because pretty much everybody here is at least in some fashion spammy. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
All right. Enemy team comp. What are they running?
I'll take it back.
Yeah, I want to say hybrid, but like, or spam? No, spam.
Yep.
Right?
Why so? I mean, if you want to list
Well,
them.
Roadhog, some spam. Cass and Soldier, obviously spam.
Mm-hmm.
Mercy can damage boost them, keep
Yep.
them up.
And
And
resurrect as
Moira.
well. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not so sure where Moira
Yeah,
falls there though.
Moira's the oddball out. Moira's not great in spam, because Moira doesn't have very much range and also has a lot of AoE healing that doesn't get used from a spam because sometimes spam can play spread out. So Moira's the oddball out here, but it's still a spam composition because the majority of the rest of them are spam.
Mhm.
Yep, so great job. So here, you guys are both kind of even, so kind of all of the things that we talked about in terms of play style doesn't really apply as much unless you're just playing wrong. Like if you're just sprinting into them like you're a brawl, this might not work out as well. But you can also think like, well, which of our teams is brawlier? Your team, I mean, might be a hair brawlier with Orisa and Junkrat, but so maybe you can play a bit more aggressive on them, whereas they're gonna be just sitting there waiting for hooks. Like that's something you can keep in mind and think about. So you guys can be a hair more aggressive than them, but there's no other significant thing to think about. You're just kind of on a mirror matchup, in terms of composition. So then it would turn to more, rather than the composition as a whole, it would turn to more individual matchups of, oh, watch out for Roadhog, don't get hooked, right? Make sure you're watching McCree on the flank and whatnot, and watching for ultimates and all that jazz. Okay, so versus on the front. Alari, unfortunately, is standing right next to a Roadhog. Probably not a great place to stand. DPS, I'd say you guys are probably way too far back here. Soldier, you're playing out of range. And the fact that Soldier, I mean, for just as a general overview, most characters suffer from being way too far away. If they because Soldier has fall off damage, meaning you're doing less damage from a distance. If you go to the training range, it'll actually be significantly less the further away you go. And on top of that, targets that are further away are much smaller, meaning that you are less accurate and dealing less damage. They're able to run around corners much easier from this distance, and also your Helix rocket is going to be a lot less effective because it's a slow projectile that is going to be hard to aim at this range. So therefore, Soldier as a whole is a mid-range character, about 15 to 30 meters. And you're right now, this is like from the nearest person, you're like from the Roadhog, you're like 40 meters, and then from everybody else, you're probably like 50, 60, something like that. Meters away. So an easy way that you can tell your range is you can ping an enemy, and it'll actually show the range that you're from, that you are from them above their head. So really simple way to just make this a bit better is to go and play up on this corner, because now that's like an extra 10 meters closer. You have better visibility because now you can see that right side, which you can't see from here. Or if you play it on this corner, you can run to right side very easily and have this off angle available. So this is better visibility. And if you go off to the right here, and you're also just a little bit closer, so you can do more. Junkrat is a bit better, but still a little bit far back. You could be running to this right side and hitting the like. You guys are just spamming the people who are in the back, not doing anything, instead of the people who are on the right, who are much closer and more accessible. So that might be the play to go. And then supports, you guys are a little bit too close, so you guys are kind of maybe could be flip flopping. A little bit. Supports standing a little bit further behind a little bit behind the DPS. DPS a little bit ahead of the supports. Tank, I think where you're at is fine, except for maybe you should be potentially putting pressure on the Roadhog if he's running over your supports. Good job backing up though, supports. Junkrat, good job going on the flank. Oh, nice. Okay, good job all collapsing on the Roadhog. That was good target priority and focus.
Yep, learned that from you, coach.
Okay, so now some of you just cap points, some of you are pushing. Nice, okay, you're not overcommitting because you didn't have all of you with you. Junkrat's on the right side. Hopefully this is another thing you guys can call out is what direction they're rotating. So they're coming up right side is something any of you like Junkrat could call out, and then now you're rotating to catch up, which it looks like you're doing, so good job. Yeah. Now they're rotating the other direction. So Orisa, you probably wanted to be rotating sooner. Cause now make sure
I'm
that you're
going
paying
in.
make sure you're paying attention to where the rest of your team's at, because you have 3 people over on point, and Orisa's by himself up against 4 people, so 5 people. Gotta be very, very careful. Okay, so here, one, just kind of down all of your teammates, so you guys all gotta be. This is another part of the teamwork, is being on the same page as to where you're positioning and being at the same spot. If all of you are spread apart, then you're not really doing much, right? So either all of you guys need to be over here, or Arissa needs to not be here. So you guys got to be on the same page in deciding. Arissa, this is a hard one. I would say this isn't a great ultimate in the sense of, one, you don't have your teammates, but also you give them a very easy corner to run behind because they can just do this and not get damaged, which they don't really, except for the Roadhog. The Roadhog, I think, avoids it maybe, but you do get everyone else. You get outs. Okay. Ultimates, they have out. They don't really have any big ult combos on their team for you guys to worry about. That's not really anything that is that you guys have to worry about combo wise. Though you do just need to watch out for them and be aware of them all. Yeah, Mercy, make sure you're not like flying up in the sky while the soldier and McCree have their ultimate, right? That's important. Like,
Yeah,
don't
that's a
Valk
bad
up in the
issue for
sky.
me.
Yeah, don't Valk up in the air. Like, yeah, that's why, once again, being aware of those ultimates is important. Or if you are Valking up in the air, use cover, so that you're not getting shot out of the sky. On your side, can you guys think of any potential ult combos? I can think of 2 ult combos that you guys have.
I think Arissa with Iliari,
Yep.
that'd be good maybe, because then
Yep.
Arissa could trigger all the Sunstrucks, and
Yep.
then maybe Junkrat with Arissa.
Yep. Exactly. Right. Very easy combos, just because Orisa can just pull them all in, and then those 2 big are big AOE ultimates. So big combos there if you did either of them. And then also you could say like Mercy do a Valk with a visor, and that just help an easy way to damage boost it. Right. That's another just simple combo. Okay. So all of you guys kind of turn your attention away. So Junkrat, you see everybody's going right side, and then you come back left side, like they're going left. When pretty much you guys should be just all spamming down this corridor. So putting pressure in the wrong place. Okay. Lucky, you probably want, so positioning wise, you're just pretty out in the open right now. So if if the McCree starts looking at you, like, where are you gonna go, right? You have to fly to get to cover. You're not next to cover. So alternatively, you should probably be on either one of these corners. I think Alari's in a fine spot because Alari's got cover to work with right here. And Soldier is also maybe a little bit on the open, but you can use this right here as cover, like this thing, but once they push forwards a little bit more, that's not going to act as good cover, or if the soldier up on that high ground starts looking at you, it's not going to be great. So maybe pushing closer to this or going left side like this could give better angles where you're not out in the open. So just watch being out in the open and positioning out in the open. Gotta be careful with it. Uh-oh. You dropped in. There's a bounce pad there if you want to bounce back out. All right, cool. Junkrat gets a spam kill. Cool, cool, cool. You guys use Valk. Yeah, you didn't have visor, so that's fine. It's the first ult you got. They have visor though, so you gotta watch for it. Okay, so Junkrat just is pretty far out in the open, so that's a death, right? Because of poor positioning. Make sure you're using cover. Alar, you're also very. I mean, you're trying to get over to your Orisa because the Orisa's kind of over there. Good res. Okay, all of you guys are just kind of sitting smack dab on the middle of point, which is just not the best place for you to be standing. You'd be in a lot better positioning if you were maybe on the edges of point. Let your tank be the one to contest point. You don't need to be the one on point. Your tank is going to be a lot more survivable than you guys are, so you don't all 5 of you need to be on point. And from here, there's just like the nearest cover is just few and far between. So you're all going to take a lot more damage and be more at risk of dying. So alternatively, like hanging back here would be a perfectly great place to be because you can just see all of point and flank and see this right side. You know, any of the flankers, you know, maybe Soldier could be like over here. You could be stacking more on top of where Orisa is and pushing the Soldier and Mercy up on the high ground. Just not smack dab in the middle point. That's just not the great upgrade place to be. And that's just, once again, positioning. Okay. Okay. What's happening over here? You get the Mercy, but then you're maybe dying. You guys got a lot of ults coming up here. You got 3. They have 2, so you know, as long as they're using 2, you could use 3 here. That'd be fine. Okay, good tire.
Yeah, this game was interesting because I remember this round we were doing really well, and then we ended up losing the whole game. So
Yeah,
like we
alright.
lost the last 2.
All right, so we'll take a look at the other 2 then. Oh, that's
Because of Zarya.
Yeah, as soon as they went Zarya, we just fell apart.
all right. So, you guys did not swap up anything, so you're on the same team composition. They did swap up stuff. What team comp are they running right now?
That looks like a brawl to me. I don't know what Zarya was considered though.
Okay. What's Zarya's effective range? What range does she prefer? Well, firstly, easy answer. Does she have high mobility?
No.
No.
Okay, so she's not.
She can like shoot at her feet, but that's it.
So not dive. And is she long range or close range?
Definitely close, I'd say.
Yeah. Her beam has a range of 15 meters. Usually the rough cutoff is 15 meters for long versus close. Anything that's like that prefers to play 15 past is usually far ranged, and then anything that likes to play within 15 meters is close ranged. Zarya prefers to play in her beam range and then can spam with her right click. but or her balls, but they are less effective than beaming things down. So her 15-meter ranged beam is a close range, maybe mid range. So she's less brawly than a Reinhardt or a Junker Queen, but is still much more brawly than a Sigma is or a Roadhog. Right. So Zarya's brawl. What else? What else changed? What else? Why is this a brawl comp?
They got Sim now too.
Yep. So they got Sim, who's brawl. So
And yeah.
brawl tank, brawl DPS. What's Ash?
Ash,
Poke.
she's more of a like a poke, right?
Yeah. So exactly. She's more poke. So brawl tank, brawl DPS, poke DPS, poke support, brawl support. So I'd say yeah, you guys are on the right track. I'd say you're mostly a brawl here, especially because the tank tips it in the balance of brawl. And then Ash and Mercy can kind of just are flexible enough to where they can support the brawl, so they kind of work into it. It'll be okay. All right, so they're more brawly. So they kind of want to run at you guys. You guys probably want to put a little bit more distance, though you do have a little bit of brawl too, right? They're not significantly more brawly than you guys are. Okay, come in. They have people sitting in spawn, so you take point for free. Perfect. Cool. Maybe you get a chance, Alara, you might want to reposition that if you're not, depending on if you're planning on playing behind it or not. Maybe you put it in the middle room. That might be a good idea. Uh-oh, so Junkrat gets picked because he's just kind of sitting off on the side by himself. Could be more positions with your team potentially, or just make sure you're using cover and playing very careful and safe. Mercy maybe can go for the res. Okay, so Orisa, watch because you are playing out in the open right now. Even tanks need to use cover because if tanks are out in the open, not only does this mean that you're taking more damage and drawing and needing more pocketing from your supports, which means that they can do less. So not only does it mean you're taking more damage and you're more likely to die, but then also when you don't play corners and cover, you also encourage your team to do the same because you kind of dictate where your team positions. If you play out in the open, then your team is tempted to follow you and play on the open. If you play corners, your team it follows and plays corners. Generally speaking, so make sure you're not smack dab in the middle of the open here. I would hug this right side more because from here you're just gonna be out in the open where everybody can see you. Great res on the Junkrat. Nobody really shot at the Symmetra. Shoot at the Symmetra.
Helden sterben nicht.
Okay, so we already have almost 5 ultimates. You guys got crazy ult charge off of this. This is a long drawn out fight. Okay, so what things do you on their team? What things do you guys need to watch out for?
Gotta make sure we don't shoot that Zarya as much.
Yep, so that's gonna be especially on the Junkrat, but also on the rest of you as well, because everybody but Mercy can also shoot at the Zarya, and Zarya is currently chilling at 90 energy, and is getting a damage boost, which means that she will shred if you guys are just feeding her that much the whole game. So you gotta watch that. Yep, that's one. What about like ultimates?
Stay far apart because Zarya is about to have her ultimate. So when she shoots that, if we're close together, she's gonna get everyone.
Yep. So you guys don't really have any direct counters to a Grav, right? You don't have like beat or transcendence or anything like that. So yep, stay spread apart. Orisa, maybe hold on to your fortify if you're able, because you can just fortify out. Right? Unless they change that, I can't remember. Man, sometimes they just change random things, and I don't remember if they did that. At least you used to be able to.
Sick. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Unless they recently changed that, but I think you can. I know they changed that with the Reaper, right? You can't Wraith out of it anymore. I think you used to be able to Wraith out of it.
I think yeah, and you can't Moira Fade out
Yeah,
of
you
it
can't
anymore.
Moira
That was
Fade
like
out of
early
it.
Overwatch too. You could.
Yep. Um, man, that's got me questioning it now. I think you can, but maybe not. I think Fortify kills it. All right. So stay spread out. And that's pretty much the main combo. Bob, you probably want to have a like. You can't sleep him. You can't hack him. So you probably want to just make sure you're using cover and just mow him down when he comes out. Um, and then for you guys, once again, you have all the same combos as before that you could be looking to use. Okay,
He missed
so
it, Symmetra.
oh, he's looking for more. He's going for a bigger play. Okay,
Come on, Dylan. Come on, Dylan. Let's go.
so you guys weren't staying spread out, so he got 3, right? So you gotta watch out for that. But good job, Junkrat, on turning around and just killing the high charge Zarya. That was a good value play right there. Oh, I thought Mercy was gonna go for it. Okay, you guys can be pressing your advantage right now. Some of you guys look like you're just kind of chilling back. Orissa's pushing, but nobody else is. You guys just killed their tank. This is just if you remember from last time, this is an advantage. This isn't a one fight per se, but it's an advantage. You probably want to press your advantage, but right now Orissa's the only one pushing. So play a bit more aggressive. Try to go looking to kill some stuff. Okay, sometimes you guys are a little bit delayed to watch the Symmetra. Junkrat, oops, that's second time. Watch cover, make sure you're using cover, respect the Ashe, pay attention to when she's shooting at you. And maybe you can position more with your team if you don't need to do the flank, but
Yeah, Lounge Lizard really likes to flank. That's like his thing.
Yeah,
So
which isn't always bad. It definitely can be good, but also yeah, honestly, it's not a bad thing. You just want to be careful that you're not too isolated from your team.
right, do it
Often
when it makes sense.
for Junkrat, who doesn't have super high mobility or high survivability, unless you're looking for a super flanky ultimate, usually you're going to want to stick with off angles. Off angles are usually short and quick. So this is an example of an off angle right here, but this is more flanky where it takes longer and is more dangerous because you're more isolated from your team. So just gotta be careful with that. All right, Mercy's going for the res. Oh, you guys did the combo. A little bit delayed though.
Let's go, though. That was sick. I
Yeah,
didn't even realize that.
so you guys did do the combo. A little bit delayed because I think it like the Illari ult came a hair late, and you're really far back in positioning wise. So just look how how split you guys are positioning wise. Like Orissa's like all the way up here, Mercy's rezzing, but then you guys are both like chilling on point, like all the way back here. So it just means that you're not able to follow up as easily.
And you can see that if Mercy didn't have to waste her ult on Junkrat getting picked, then she could have revved me, and then I would like the tank, and then that would have been way more better.
I think Bob gets me there, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so Mercy's not a great... Bob's just on the prowl. Yeah, alright. So you get 2 kills out of it, but tank dies because tank just pushes. Maybe you guys like also should be communicating, like when Mercy's going for the res, don't be pushing into ult, right? Because once again, like Mercy's not there. So for all intensive purposes, you're pushing in for a Orisa ult in a 3v5, right? Because Mercy's just out of the equation. So maybe you pause for a second and wait until you have your Junkrat back up, and then you can go for it. Remember that you're also spammier than they are, so I think that you guys just didn't need to sprint into them there. Let them come to you. Utilize this these long open sight lines. Did we talk about no man's land usage last time at all, and choke point usage, or no?
I don't think I've heard no man's land usage, the term.
Yeah, we can talk about that real quick. No man's land is the less common term. It's a war term. I don't know. I have no clue if I'm the one who introduced this if I'm the one who can't like just added this to Overwatch, or if I heard this from somebody somewhere sometime like within the past 6 years. But it's a term that is used to describe. I'll show you what it means, positioning wise. You guys are familiar with the choke point though, yeah?
Yeah, points you're holding.
Yeah.
Hard for them to get past.
Yeah, exactly. Very easy way to define them is it's basically like a funnel. It's a very small, tight corridor that they have to push through. So, for example, this would be a choke point. So, because it's a small little funnel here, and that means choke points are not great places to stand in because you take a lot of extra damage because you can just funnel all your damage right here and they take all of it because they have nowhere to run away. So, if that's the point back there, and they have to get through this choke to get over to the point. If you're defending this, right, and you're defending this and you're holding here, do they need to get to point to win the fight? Do they need to? Oh, sorry, another way to put this. Sorry. Do they need to go through the choke to win the fight?
But yeah, they're good because you're past the choke. They don't got to go through there. They can
Yeah.
just pick you off from there.
Yeah, they can just kill you and then go through it, right? To win, they can win the fight and then push through the choke. So there's no necessity for them to walk through the choke point. And in fact, if they push you and you have to back up, well, now you have to back up through the bad positioning that you're putting your team in. So you don't want to defend and hold chokes at the front of them or in the middle of them. You want to defend and hold them at the end of them because now they do, to kill you, you have a lot of cover usage here. They have to push through to be able to get to you, and then you can just play on this and try to hold them in there as long as possible. Put pressure, hold them, and keep them in that bad positioning, right? Now, if you're attacking through this, you try to go through it as quickly as possible and using as much cover as possible. So maybe instead of just kind of slowly just sit in here, you don't want to sit in it. You want to just like push, and then maybe break out, right? And we get past it, right? To try to get out of that choke point. No Man's Land is very similar. Training Range isn't a great example, but we can still use this example. No Man's Land is any long open sight line with a very minimal amount of cover. So if you're walking down the middle of this is a No Man's Land where there's not really a whole lot of cover if you're pushing through this, which is also not great positioning because if there's no cover, then you can't survive, right? Because you're just gonna get mowed down while they shoot at you for free. So if you're defending this, right? If you're defending this and the point's all the way back there, okay, once again, let's say that they get through the choke point. Well, now, if we hold at the front of the No Man's Land, do they have to push through No Man's Land to win the fight?
Wait, could you repeat that?
Yep. So if you're holding up here, do they have to push through the No Man's Land to win the fight?
If you're holding here, do they have to put and like this is
assuming I'm the team. Assuming that me and the team are standing here. And they're all standing here.
Yes. Because you don't want to stay in the choke point, right?
Yes. So let's say they break out of the choke point and they're standing like here, right, or whatever. They break out of the choke, do they have to push through the No Man's Land to then kill you and win?
Shoot, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking on one end, like I don't want to go back because then I'm just re-entering the choke point. But then also I don't want to push forward because I'm pushing into No Man's Land. So it's kind of like
So
that's my thought process.
Then you are able to just kill them where they're at, right? And you just take the fight here.
I see. Okay.
But once again, if your team's positioning here, then you're standing in the No Man's Land. And if you try to run away, you're running back through the No Man's Land, right? Which is not good for you or your team, right? So it's the exact same exact same concept as a choke point, where you don't want to hold at the front, you don't want to hold in the middle. You usually want to hold at the end of a no man's land, because then you can spam them the entire time they're trying to approach and just try to keep them back, and you get a lot more value out of that. All right.
Right.
So and then once again, if you're trying to attack it, you try to go from cover to cover as quickly as possible and just try to close the distance, and try to do it quickly and take as little damage as possible. Now, if you have multiple in a line, obviously you have to end somewhere. Here, the point would be where we would end. But if we have a choke point and then a no man's land, where do we hold? Well, you can poke at them while they're approaching from here, and then you could back up and poke at them as they approach from here, and then you just have a ton of time to spam them. That's one option. You also have to pick and choose your battles. Do we want to take the fight where we have a lot of cover here on point, or do we want to take the fight where we have very little cover up here, and if they break out of it, then we don't have any cover. So it kind of depends. Maybe if you're really brawly, you might want to try to hold the choke. If they have no other options of getting through, like if this was like the only place they could get through, then maybe you could hold the choke as a brawl comp. Or you can just, even as a brawl, you could just wait for them to come to you and just let them close the distance and get to you. But on spam, definitely just like let them try to push to you. Why would you intentionally go and put yourself closer to them?
Right.
And when you could play the distance, which is exactly the opposite of what we were doing when we were pushing into their brawl composition to use it Orisa ultimate.
I see.
That makes sense?
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
All right. I think we're at the hour. All right. So, we talked about team compositions, right? So keep an eye out for that. That you have the chart as that reminder. We refreshed on all those things. We talked about, reminded you about positioning. We in future sessions, maybe we could go over more general awareness, or we could go over, I mean, like, there are definitely a lot of other topics that we have not covered at all that we can
Mm-hmm.
cover. And we do have 2 more hours for that, so we'll definitely have more
Cool.
time. But any final questions about anything that we talked about, or anything we didn't talk about?
One question I had was just sort of what do you think? Like, does the next tank? I don't know if you've seen it, the Hazard. Does that fall into dive? Is he gonna be a dive tank?
Yeah, I think because he has the lunge, right? And I
Yeah.
remember I played him in the beta. Yeah, I think he'd be divey. He kind of like leaps in and leaps out. Is kind of his goal. So yeah, he has high mobility. I'd probably put him in a dive.
Okay.
Is there like a one-stop shop where you can see like a list of the heroes and like what they are composition wise?
Um, not as far as I'm aware. Honestly, that's something I probably should have made a while ago, but have been too lazy to do. I don't think so. I can try looking it up.
Okay.
But here, let's see.
Because just something to look over, like an Excel sheet or something, where like you can have like a column for like all the hero names and then like where they fall composition wise, like primary, secondary. I feel like that'd be a good idea.
Oh, wait, somebody might have done this. I mean,
Let's
this is a rough.
go.
Let's see. Dive composition, double bubble. This is an old one. Some of these might be a bit old. See, I didn't make this stuff up. People are using dive, dive, brawl, and poke.
um, and then that's something we can find. And then like what is I'm just trying to think for my heroes that I play. What is Torbjorn?
Torbjorn is spam and brawl.
Okay.
Not really. Not really dive very much. I mean, he obviously can't sprint in. Let's see if I can. Let me glance over this one. Copy it. Let me see how accurate this is. Copy image. Okay, this one. Here, I'm gonna. Here, I'll just stream it real quick, and let's look through and see if we can find any that are good here.
Okay.
So I think that this is older, so I don't think that this is maybe currently accurate. Let's see. Ooh, dive. This is Overwatch 2. Dive. Oh, and they give even the rough rock, paper, scissors. Let's look at that. So
Okay.
dive gets poke. Poke gets brawl. Brawl gets dive. Man, look at this. I'm not making this stuff up. Oh, is
Let's
this
go.
Frogger talk? Is this oh, it's Froggy. Never mind. How good is my hero composition chart? All right. So they do dive, diva, doomfist, monkey, ball. Yep. Tracer, Sombra, Pharah, Echo, Genji. Yep. Here the
Would
only problem with this one is that they don't do it's not as nuanced. They don't do any of the in between categories.
I think that's what they're showing right there with the Orisa and the Zarya and how they're highlighted.
Orisa and Zarya. Orisa. Oh, then I can't even
So
see
like,
that really well.
yeah. So I think it's what that's showing is Orisa is green and blue. It's showing something because it has that on Brig as well.
Yeah.
Got that on Zarya, Orisa, Brig, and that's it. But that might symbolize that, like the ones that
Yeah.
are kind of hybrid.
Compatible, incompatible, playable.
Oh, that's a cool chart too.
Ooh, this might be good. Wait. Compatible, incompatible, playable. Okay, so Brig, Poke, Rush, yes, Dive, yes. I might even say more. The Rush is a check mark there, but Lucio, yes. Dive, okay, cool. Yep. Mercy, yep. That's accurate. Lifeweaver, Poke. I'm less experienced with Lifeweaver. Ana, Dive, yep. Rush, Poke. That one's not as great. She's definitely better in Rush than Poke. I don't know if that's very accurate. Dive. Okay, I don't know if I like this one because Baptiste is not compatible with Dive. Kiriko, Poke, Rush. Okay, Moira, Poke. Okay, Zenyatta, Rush, Poke. What is red? I guess
I saw that as well.
yeah,
It's like
red signal.
barely playable, maybe.
Barely playable. Yeah, I'd say that's inaccurate too, because Genji's just not great in a spam comp. Echo, yeah. Is Pharah's not dive? Okay, yeah. Sorry, this one's not good. All right. Yeah. So there's like different charts throughout here. Let's look at this one. Dive. You have Doom. I don't know if this includes ever. Okay, Doomfist. Yes. Sombra. Yes. Tracer. Yes. Monkey. Diva. Ball. Genji. Yep. Brawl and Dive. Lucio. Lifeweaver and Moira. Sure, I'd say Moira is more brawly, but that works. Mei, Sim, darn it, why do they have Roadhog in the pure brawl category? See, the problem is that I should probably just make my own at this point because
that would be awesome because I feel like you have the knowledge to be able to make like a refined one.
yeah, it just would maybe I can do it oh, I can do it on tier list. That'd be an easy place to do it. Yeah, all right. You know what? I'm frustrated at all these, so I'm just gonna go and make my own
Let's go.
over on a tier list, and then I'll have
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
you got to bless the community with that.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Is there a time that you want to schedule for your next one, or do you need to talk it over with everybody?
I'll probably, yeah, same thing as before for the final session. Make sure that there's no like hiccups. Just solidify it.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. We're good. We got like 50 days left on the order, so we're just yeah. Whenever you get the chance, let me know.
Okay,
I'll message
perfect.
you in like a week if I don't hear anything back yet.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Have a great
Sounds
one.
good.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye, have a good
Thanks.
day.